Come on. That's right.
We got so many people walking around in pain. So many men. So many women.
Yes.
Walking around in pain.
My God.
And then we get into a relationship and we maximize the pain. So we got to deal with the issue of the lack of wholeness. Wholeness is the absence or the opposite of brokenness. Wholeness is the totality of who God created you to be and to receive here on earth. So if you're not being and receiving what God says that you should have, then there's a level of brokenness that's present. And we want to deal with that on today before we talk about the ABCs. I have something that I say, the better you are, the better your marriage will be. The better you are, the better your relationships will be. For those of you that are single, that desire to get married or don't desire to get married, you still have to have relationships with other people. So in order to produce better relationships, you have to produce a better you. So we want to talk about how do we get to this place of brokenness. I'm going to tell you something. A lot of times we don't choose brokenness. I didn't choose for my father to die, right? Somebody doesn't choose to get abused by their mother or their father. Somebody doesn't choose for their husband or their wife to cheat on them. It chooses us. And sometimes because of the past sins and the things that our fathers and our mothers and our grandmothers and our grandfathers did, we're born into iniquity. We're born into sin. So we have 3 ways that we can come from this place of brokenness. Number 1, generational. Yes. It's inherited. You ever saw a father that was an alcoholic? The grandfather was an alcoholic. The grandfather, great-grandfather, and all of that. And then the child is born, then the child becomes an alcoholic. Yes. Same thing, the father was an abuser. Grandfather was an abuser. Those things are generational. So sometimes, unfortunately, you are born into those things. And then you become what you have either experienced or you become what was already birthed inside of you. That blood that was already given to you at the conception of birth. But there's a redeemer.
Yes,
so
Lord.
don't lose hope.
Yes, Lord.
Number 2, social. We live in a broken world, right? Just look around us. Racism, sexism, lesbianism, homosexuality. All of these things that are happening right around us every single day. We live in a fallen world. But we don't have to allow the world's issue to consume us. Because God says we were created in His image and in His likeness. Right. So regardless of what they're dealing with in the world, that should have no bearing on us because we are believers. But this is brokenness. This is brokenness because a lot of times, I have a 21-year-old son, Pastor President, AJ can believe that. And because you go out into the world, when you're born, your parents are the greatest influence of your life, right? Your parents and those that are closest to you. And then you have your community, that's the greatest influence of your life, right? So then when you go off to school or you go off to the military or trade or whatever, those people then have the greatest influence over your life. And now we live in an age where social media has maximized and it just has taken over our children. Our children are going through depression. When I say children, I'm not talking about small children, just the people that we've birthed. They're going through depression, they're going through oppression, they're going through stress, they're going through anxiety, they're going through thoughts of suicide, they're going through all of these things. And I believe, and I know as a matter of fact, because I've researched, social media has a lot to do with that.
I believe that too.
So we live in the social world of acceptance. I want to be accepted, so I'm going to take my picture, I'm going to stick my butt out if I'm a girl, I'm going to wear this outfit, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. I'm just being raw and real, you guys. So whatever comes out of my mouth, you just got to receive it. I'm just going to do whatever I need to do to be accepted, right? Right. Because I live in this world where it says that I have to dress a certain way, I have to drive a certain car, I have to buy a certain house, my lips have to look like this, my butt have to look like this. We live in this world, we want to be socially accepted, so this is a broken, fallen world, and if you don't have God, you will flow right into it.
My God, my God.
And you have our children also that are experiencing with marijuana like never before.
That's right.
It's like everywhere I go, I'm smelling it. I'm on the
That's
highway.
right.
I'm on, at the stoplight. I'm in the store. I have nephews, nieces. I'm smelling. I'm like, why am I smelling it all the time? It wasn't like that. We had things that we got into, but it wasn't like that. It's like the world is turning upside down.
That's right.
But our children are looking to substance abuse, marijuana, and cocaine, and drugs, and all of these things because they want to be socially accepted.
Right. Yeah.
So then we have your personal brokenness. When you've experienced some type of trauma, when you've been devalued as a person, when your trust has been taken away from you, when you didn't even have an opportunity to stand up for yourself. That personal brokenness. I was in a first marriage where I was abused. I was devalued. I was overtaken by somebody that did not deserve me.
That's right.
Mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, financially. Right? That's personal.
Right.
So that's brokenness. And a lot of times we've been through those situations, I can say it was from my story, we feel like once we physically departed, that we're healed. But let me tell you something. There's another process.
It is, yes.
You physically disassociated from that situation, but there are still some things that you have to do in order to experience your healing and your deliverance and your continued healing and deliverance. Because what I am going to tell you is that it is a continued process.
Yes.
You're going to continue to
Praise
grow
God.
and
Praise
learn
God.
from
Yes.
that experience. You
Yes.
will never get to a place where you have arrived. Yes, you'll get
Come
to a
on.
place where you can talk about it without
Yes.
crying and without getting emotional. But let me tell you something. You will always have to push.
That's right.
And you will always have to fight to stand in the presence of God.
That's right.
Because it takes one thought.
My God, come on.
It takes one feeling
Come on.
to get back into that place.
Yes.
That's right.
So we got to deal with brokenness. We have to tear down the walls. There's no sense in talking about living happily ever after when I'm an emotional mess. There's no sense in talking about how we look in a selfie when my mind is all messed up. When I have not gotten over the abuse of my past.
Yes.
When I'm trying to blame my husband or my wife for my issues.
My God, come on.
When I can tell them everything that's wrong with them, but I fail to look in the mirror at my own life. There is no use of us talking about having happiness and being joyful in a marriage when we haven't tear down the walls.
God, come on.
I posted something on my social media earlier and I said, this is the year of healing. This is the year of wholeness. This is the year of evolved. We want to stand in that place. There's not a person in here that has not experienced pain.
That's right.
There is not a person in here that has not experienced some level of hurt. There is not a person in here that has not experienced some level of betrayal. And you know what that produces? Rejection. So you wonder why you keep getting in friendships or relationships with people that are just like you, that are rejected, that are broken, that are empty. You find yourself trying to heal these people, per se. You find yourself being a missionary to these people. You're attracting broken people. Yes, you can say, well, I'm a minister and I attract broken people. But and that attraction, it should be for you to lay hands and for you to speak over their life, not for them wanting to befriend you, per se.
Right.
If they're feeling that close and that comfy, then there's some residue that is still on you that needs to be shaken off.
Preach the residue, yeah.
In the name of Jesus.
Amen.
It needs to be shaken off.
My God. Shake.
So I'm going to tell you how to shake it off. I'm going to tell you how to confront that issue. And as I'm talking, don't think about your husband. Don't think about your wife as far as, oh yeah, that's him. Oh yeah, that's her. No, it's you. We're dealing with you. You came here on today. And that's one thing I say when I often tell my stories and I'm transparent about my marriage. I'll say that's how I felt. I can't speak for him because I'm going to stand right now. I can't share his testimony. I'm going to stand right now. So we want to be able to shake those things off, because if not, you can come to a marriage seminar. You can read a book on marriage. You can listen to an audio video on marriage, but your marriage will not change. You will continue to go through the crazy cycle, as Dr. Emerson liked to call it. Stuck on crazy. Like a hamster on a wheel. Just keep going and going and going and going with no exit plan. And I'm not talking about exit your marriage. I'm talking about exit that situation.
Yes.
Because if you have not identified the issue, you're going to continue to stay on that wheel. If you have not identified the issue, you're going to continue to stay on that wheel. We look at the symptom. The symptom is my marriage is broken. That's a symptom. The symptom is my wife has a mouth problem, or she doesn't respect me. The symptom is my husband doesn't love me. The symptom is he's abusive, she's abusive. Those are symptoms of the problem. We want to, number one, identify the problem. Identify and acknowledge that it does exist. Because the more you blame, you're never going to see yourself. The more you take that mirror and you try to turn it over to the other person, you're never going to see yourself. And I like to say this. If you have people around you that are telling you that you are a certain way, you're this or you're that, you have this attitude or that attitude, start to believe them. Because there's something they see about you. There's something that's still on you, the residue of who you were, that they're still seeing. Don't take it in offense. Don't get offended. And don't get so blindsided by their delivery. What's how they said it? It doesn't matter. There's some truth to it. So number one, you're going to acknowledge that there's an issue. Number two, you're going to trace the source. How are you going to trace the source? You're going to follow the pain. Where is it coming from? What happened to me to the point now I don't want to love my husband? I don't want to have sex with my husband. My husband no longer pleases me. I'm no longer happy with him. My wife no longer pleases me. I'm no longer satisfied with the wife of my youth. What happened to you? It was not her. It was not him. What happened? What was the ultimate issue, the problem that happened? Who did it and why? Ask yourself, who did it and why? Even if you had some infidelity in your marriage, even if that was not even the root cause, there's a problem as to why that even occurred in the first place. So you want to deal with that. Trace the source. Look at the pain and just follow it. And you have to deal with it. Number three, you're going to need to trust the opinions of others. Get you people around you and honestly ask them, what's wrong with me? Ask them, why am I showing up like this? Why is my marriage broken? Don't go off on a ramble and start telling them everything that's wrong with your spouse. Ask them, why is my marriage not healthy? Ask them, and do I still deal with that anger problem? Because you know you once had an anger problem. You know you once had an issue with the way that you thought. Ask yourself, why? And allow them to give you a response. And when they give you that response, you have to be ready to do the work. You have to. Because if not, it's just going to be a cycle. How many of you have continued to see, the cycle? You're doing good for a couple months or a couple years, and then you find yourself back in this place. You know why? Because it's a constant renewing of your mind that has to take place.
Yes,
I'm going to say this, and some people don't agree, but love alone is not going to keep your marriage. Love alone is not going to sustain your marriage. If that were to be the case, why are there so many people that love one another that are can't stand each other? They're now divorced. So if love alone was enough, wouldn't the divorce rate be 0? But it's not. So we have to be able to deal with underlying issues in order